Here are 5 things I wish I knew as an African child who grew up in Africa. First and foremost, the depth, the power of our heritage. I wrote it down because I tend to go all over the place, but this video I wanted to be concise and specific. The depth of our heritage, my culture, my traditions, my story are treasures that hold riches that many around the world, that many other races, that many other countries, that many other cultures are influenced by, are inspired by. And I wish I knew that growing up, because when I was growing up, my culture, my tradition, my story wasn't talked about enough in the school, in the TV, in the radio. But since I'm a very curious person, I had to go out of my way to educate myself about my story, about my culture, about my traditions. And the more I learned about my heritage, the more I understood how everything else come from the source, come from the motherland, come from our land, how everything else was inspired by something, was part of my culture or my tradition or my story. 2, my story matters. As an African child, whatever you go through, whatever you experience, good, bad, beautiful, ugly, amazing, hurtful, difficult, challenging, smiley, tears, whatever you go through, whatever you experience, that's your story and it's on you to tell. If you don't speak on your story, if you don't speak on your truth, somebody else can use it and twitch it around to make it their story, to make it their truth. So it's important, at least for me, it's important for me to know that I own my story. I am my story. I'm not going to let anybody else write the story, anybody else come up with a narrative about my life. No, because I live it, I experience it. Nobody else was there with me. Maybe they can see from the outside, but I know what I went through in the inside. So my story mattered. And not only my story, the story of those that are around me, the story of my ancestors, the stories that people of my family that didn't get to meet physically, but that we are connected spiritually. My story. And also my story is not just my story. Now you see me here, you see this body, you see this voice. But before this body, this voice being presented here, there have been millions, if not trillions, of my people that have existed physically before me. And that now they are existing within me. That's why I know my skin is power. That's why I know my hair is power. That's how I know my voice is power. Because anywhere I go, it's not only me. I am the representations of my ancestors. I am the representations of everybody from my bloodline that existed before me and that is going to exist after me. So I take pride in my face. So I take pride in my voice. So I take pride in my body. So I take pride in my hair. So I take pride in my height. So I take pride in everything that has to do about me because I understand. 3, home is a strength and not a limitation. At least from experience growing up, the images, the representations, or the perspective I was hearing about my continent wasn't so positive. It was so negative. When they talk about people who are dying of hunger, the first pictures you see globally are the pictures of African childs, African kids. Back then, I knew nothing. Back then, all I knew is all I knew. But right now, I know better, so I'm doing better. And I'm understanding, I'm realizing that our home, my home, is not a limitation. It's a strength, it's power, it's knowledge, it's beauty, it's excellent. And I take pride on that. Also, it goes back to my story, your story matter. Because how many of you, African child, as you grow and as you go around life, you can tend to believe that, because I'm from Africa, I can do this, I can do that. Because I'm from Africa, this cannot work out, this is not gonna happen to me. I don't deserve success, I don't deserve recognition. I don't deserve fame. I don't deserve happiness. I don't deserve money in abundance. You had to get out of that undeserving state of mind, that undeserving state of belief, that undeserving spirit, and get into the deserving spirit that you deserve prosperity, that you deserve fame, that you deserve happiness, that you deserve money in abundance. That where you come from, that where we come from, is not a limitation, but is a strength, is power, is royalty, is beauty. When I was growing up, I wish I knew this earlier. But now that I know better, I'm doing better. Growing up in Africa is not a limitation. I know what you can see in the mainstream media and what is represented. Then we can be like, well, those people don't look like me. They are not from where I am from. Oh, my stories are not being told. My hair, my body, my voice, my nose, my lips are represented in this way. But you have to understand, and you have to be curious enough to do your own researches. Don't let nobody educate you about who you are, about where you come from. For so long, I did it. I relied on the education, the information other people gave me about my country, about my culture, about my continent, because I thought they knew better. But as I grew and as I evolved, as I was curious enough, and as my own mistakes, my own pain, my own failures, my own adventures have led me to understand that, nah, it's not on anybody else to teach me about me. It's not on anybody else to teach me about where I'm coming from. It's on me. Because if you let other people tell you the truth, they are going to tell you the truth that works for them, that suits them. But you got to find the truth. That's what I was saying at the beginning, that don't let somebody else own your story. Don't let somebody else tell your story. No matter what your story look like, that's your story. So you tell it, you express it, you experience it, you write the narrative. Home is a strength. Home is power. Home is beauty. Home is excellence. Home is royalty. Home is not a limitation. Home is not something to be ashamed of. Home is not something to hide. Home is something to be proud of, something to celebrate, something to cherish. Right? Then, number 4, representation matters. The representation do matter. And not just any representation, but the authentic, the truthful, the positive representation. Because, for example, we all know the power that social media have. We know the power that books, TV shows, cartoons have. So if the representation and all you see about where I come from, where you come from is negativity, is poverty, is sickness, is not, you can think that, oh, then this is all I am. I'm just from poverty, from negative, from sickness, which is false. But you have to look out for the positive representation. And if there is not positive representation about where you come from, you be the positive representation. You be the person standing out in your truth, standing out in your authenticity, standing out in what you know is good, what you know is positive. Because representation matters. That's why if you look in the globally, what are some things that the TVs, the mainstream push when it comes to our continent? They push what? Poverty. They push what? Ignorance. They push what? Sickness. But why are they not pushing all the value we have because of our minerals, because of our people, because of our culture, because of our ancestors, because of our land? What is that? That is not the representation that is being pushed out. Why not? Have you asked yourself that? I asked myself that question for so long. Instead of me waiting somebody else to give me the answer, I take it on me to be the positive representation, because representation do matter. If you are consistently seeing somebody who look like you and who come from where you come from, if you are consistently seeing that person only being represented in a negative, in a positive, in a destructive, in a toxic, in a useless way, subconsciously you're going to start thinking that you too are useless, you too are poor, you too are negative. which is completely false. Which is completely false. Do you know why? Because as I said earlier, where we come from, there is royalty, there is greatness, there is power, there is beauty. I know it and you know it. So it's on me to represent me, and it's on you to represent you. Then I think I already said before, so because I have many, I have at least 8, but I'm trying to condense it into 5. And then last but not least important is emotional intelligence. When I was growing up, the least I was being taught in my household or in the school was how to manage my emotions, how to think critically, how to understand myself, how to speak out for myself, how to be able to be aware of my emotions, be aware of my feelings, and understand that the way I feel, the way I think has a huge impact in my life. Emotional intelligence, that you can sit with yourself and analyze yourself, like what's going on? Why do I think this way? Why do I act this way? That you take time to regulate your emotions, to understand your emotions, to accept your emotions, instead of pushing it down, instead of fighting, instead of trying to deal with it with alcohol, with drugs, with sex. Emotional intelligence, that's something that I wish I learned earlier. However, I didn't until what I decided to do so, because of my own curiosity, because of my own pain, not being able to manage my own emotions, not knowing, not even being able to sit with myself. So I had to do the work in me. Not blame my parents for not teaching me that, not blaming my school for not teaching me that, but looking at myself in the mirror and telling myself, well, I don't know how to manage my emotions. I don't know how to speak up for myself. I don't know how to be there for other people emotionally. I don't even know. What do I feel? So I started asking myself questions and being patient enough and loving enough to myself to understand that, hey, even though I didn't grow up knowing that, it's on me to now learn that. Because as I said earlier, do not rely on somebody else for your education, for your growth, for your evolution. If there is something you want to do, you want to know, go ahead and learn. Be curious enough. Sit down with yourself and ask yourself questions. Why do I act this way? Why do I talk this way? Why do I behave this way? Because it wasn't until I learned emotional intelligence and deeply went in within myself that I understood that a lot of the behaviors I had in reaction wasn't even mine. The reactions I had, the behaviors I had, was because of where I'm coming from, was because of what I'm used to. That I was growing up, that when, for example, when I would do something wrong, I would get beat up, I would go yelled at. So that's what I did. Whenever any of my partners or any of my friends in the past, before I was emotionally intelligent, did something to me, I tend to what? React in an angry way, trying to curse, trying to insult, trying to fight, trying to get defensive. Why? Because that's what I was used to. And I thought that was who I am. I was like, no, that wasn't who I am. That was who my environment had trained me and programmed me to be. But I didn't want to be that person anymore. I didn't want to be the product of my environment. I didn't want to be the product, the reflection of the lack. So I had to work on myself. So I had to sit with myself and be honest with myself. And it's painful and it's difficult. Why? Because it feels as if you are removing your skin. It's as if you are removing your skin, because you have to unlearn a lot of the things that you thought were good for you, to now start learning the things that are actually good for you. Things as of positive thinking, positive feeling, positive speaking, emotional intelligence, asking questions, being curious, being consistent, being disciplined, being honest, being transparent, loving yourself, believing in yourself. I had to unlearn all the reacting. I had to start thinking, and then maybe react, because not everything needs a reaction. I did not learn that when I was growing up, but I'm glad that I know now. Now that I know better, I do better. Let me know in the comments if you want me to put if you want a part two of the things I wish I knew as an African who grew up in Africa. Thank you for watching.